it's okay. All right, and
Okay, so
we're
now,
live.
so
Okay.
how do I make this larger? Oh my God. Studio as a guest. Enter studio.
Okay.
Hold on.
All right.
All right, I
Let
see you.
me add you. Add to speak.
How's that? Okay. We're
Yeah,
here.
you're not here. Mm-hmm.
Hold on. Let me end the call.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Good. Good.
Hello. Oh wow.
Okay, this is perfect. Okay. Now we are good. So we will start at 8. We've got about 7 or so minutes, which is okay. Which is okay. Which is good.
Okay. My glasses are always tilted sideways. Maybe it's just me. I don't know.
I think you're fine. I think you're fine. It's so interesting the differences in time. Like I'm so at night, you're so during the day, but this is so cool.
I know it's 8 or going to be 8 p.m., right? Or 7 or
8
8.
p.m. 8
Wow.
p.m.
Wow. Well, I appreciate you staying up and having me. It's going to be 1 here.
Mm,
And we're excited. I just in awe of being here. This is my first interview, so um it just might be that. But how is your son and how's your family? How's everybody?
everybody's well.
Good.
Everybody's good.
All right.
Everybody's good. I'm so grateful.
Everybody is fine.
I'm so grateful. That's the most important. Good. Sam is okay. Your sons, your daughters, everybody's fine.
Yes. I spoke to Danielle, the my youngest daughter, who's about to deliver any day now. I spoke to her last
Mm-hmm.
night. As a matter of fact, we had a nice chat, and she's doing good. She's doing really good. She's just excited, and she's waiting, and she's waiting for her mom to be there. So I think my wife is leaving on Tuesday. She'll be there on Tuesday. I'm leaving the following week to go out for a few weeks, so we can
Okay.
spend some time. So I'm looking forward to that.
Mm,
She is doing well, and her husband, they're both doing very well.
okay, that's awesome. All right, let me see who's on. Um, Let me see who's on. Live viewers. Who? Hmm. Okay, I can't quite see, but that's okay. So we start at 4, and it's actually going to be up on YouTube. So
Whoa, whoa! So is StreamYard part of YouTube, or it's a separate?
I think it's a separate, but it allows you to stream to different. Oh, hi Jill, I see you. Let me see. You can write on the chat, can't you? Yeah,
In
you
the
should be
chat?
able to.
Okay, I can see there's a chat on the side, right?
Yeah, so you can use the chat box. This is like so cool. I feel so. But anyway,
Good, good.
so
I'm excited
everybody
to be here.
sees the shenanigans that happens before the broadcast, but it's okay.
Right. So, how long have you been doing your conversations? I meant to ask you that before. I don't know why I didn't talk about that.
So we started in April, May, June, July. So you're the 5th person.
That's amazing. That's really
You
cool.
know,
And
it
how
is.
has it been?
It's been very interesting, and God has been showing up in His own way. The conversations. There's a
Man.
bit of echo on my end. Um, Let me get headphones. I think that's what I'm going to do.
Okay.
Okay, so just give me a second. Let me run and get headphones. I'll be back.
Yep.
All right, I am back.
All right.
Let me see. Hi, Diana. Okay, how is it now? Jill, you need to tell me if you can still hear an echo. And then you also need to say if can you see both of us? Okay, all right. Okay, we can see. Perfect. That's okay. Um, okay, all right. Maybe I should actually be checking. Let me see. Have I look on my phone? Um, wait. Hmm. Yeah, it looks very different on the phone. I can, and it's like it's 10 minutes behind, which is okay. But all
Wow.
right.
Okay.
And it's like it's 10 minutes behind. Hmm. Cool. Do you know? I just discovered that people actually use StreamYard. I'm like, where have I been living? It's so
Well,
interesting.
with StreamYard, this is my first. Until the other day, I did not know that StreamYard or any other besides like I guess YouTube and
Mm,
Zoom, because that's how my family and I we meet on Zoom. So I thought that that was like that was it. But I'm sure there are more
there are
than
tons.
tons of them, right? I'm sure.
Yeah. Okay, let's see what time it is. Okay, it is 8. I think we'll give people like 3 4 minutes to get in, and then we shall begin and keep it moving. Everybody else will catch up as we go along. Yeah, sounds good.
Sure. Sounds great. I'm
Okay,
here. I'm here.
perfect.
Um,
Okay, so I'm gonna leave that out. I've got my all right. Okay.
all right. Are you guys? Do you have not winter, but do you have a cold season? Okay, there's a delay there.
Mm-mm,
You're
mm-mm.
frozen. Okay.
I don't know why connection is unstable. Nonsense. But anyway, hmm. Okay, I think we're 5 people who are online, so I suppose we can actually start.
Okay.
We let the other people come. So, hi everybody, and welcome to this month's conversation with Dan King. I'm so excited. Um, for a couple of reasons. One, Dan is my very fast gentleman, and that's like a really big deal. So I'm grateful for that. And then two, we're doing it on StreamYard and we're streaming on YouTube, and it's a whole new monkey, but we're going to be just fine. And then, yeah, three, this is the day the Lord has made, even though for some of us the day is ending, for others the day is still proceeding. We shall be glad and rejoice in it. So
Yes.
if you can, there's a live chat somewhere. We'll be able to see it over here. So just identify yourself. If you want to let us know where you're from, that would be awesome as well. I've seen Jill, I've seen Diana. I know Pam should be on somewhere. So just say hi in the chat box, let us know that you're there, and then we're going to have a word of prayer and get right into it. So everybody else who comes in will just have to follow along. So you've got like about a second to just say hi, give us your name and where you're from. Oh, private chat. Let me see.
Okay. Um,
Why are you on private chat?
is that private?
Yeah, apparently it is. Okay, here
Oh,
we have
there is it.
comment.
Okay.
Hi, Danielle.
Danielle.
Yeah, okay. All right. Okay, I guess in the meantime, let's just kind of pray quickly. So if you can bow your heads and close your eyes, that would also be really good. Dear God, we just want to thank you for today. I want to thank you for this conversation that we're having. I want to thank you for the connection that you
Jesus.
made it possible for Dan and myself to just link up. We're in two totally different worlds, but here we are in
Yes.
service to you, Lord. I just want to glorify your name, and I want to pray that you will use us. Use our words, speak through us, Lord. Use our words to encourage, to activate, to heal, to support, to empower, Lord. You know, everybody who's here at this very moment, it's not by accident. I thank you because you've told us that where two or more are gathered in your name, there you are also. We invite your presence. We invite the presence of the Holy Spirit. We invite the presence of Jesus in this conversation, Lord. And at the end of the day, may all glory and honor return unto you, Lord. We
Yes.
thank you because you are here. We thank you because you rejoice in seeing the work started. That's the most important thing. And we pray that the people who are here will be blessed. Your name will be glorified. And at the end of the day, we shall give thanks and glory to you. In Jesus' name we pray.
Yes.
Amen.
Amen.
All
Hey,
right, so Danielle from California, Jill from Nairobi, Dalila Molina from New York, Pam is somewhere, Pam from Nairobi. So, hi everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Um, like I've said, I'm very excited. I'm very excited to be talking to Dan. We had a prior conversation last week, and I'm excited for him to be here and to just speak to us and share a bit about himself, a bit about his journey, what he does with the rest of us. Yeah, and let's see how it's going to go. So, Dan, over to you. We're going to start like this. So, will you tell the people who you are, those who don't know you, who you are, what you do, and a little bit about your journey and your testimony up until this point?
well, in terms of my testimony, I'll give you the short version. I'm almost 60. So
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I'm gonna just break it down. I had jotted some things down, but uh my story started or my testimony really started when I gave my heart to the Lord in 1986. Uh in church one day, feeling the tug in the heart, and I had been denying. I finally went up and accepted Jesus in my life. Since then, I have backslidden and I have been on a roller coaster in this life, but something happened then that is coming back now. Um, but about 12 years ago, I went through some things at work that put me in a position to not question my faith, but reactivate my faith in a deeper way. And I really needed to step in. And um, I had been dismissed from the police department. I had been in and out of court, family court, with some issues, and I realized that I needed to surrender and wholeheartedly, and that's when I began to write. That's when I began to pour my heart out. It was me and the Lord, and He had been pursuing me the whole way, and um, I used journaling as a way to. I'll say it was an apology letter that I started to my wife, but it wound up becoming a love letter to God, and it's brought me all the way through. It's really it's really where everything started and shifted for me. I didn't know that that I was going to be going into coaching and things like that. I knew I wanted to be in service. I knew that if God could get me through what I went through, then I had to share what happened for me and not keep it to myself. It was selfish of me to think that. And I knew that at some point I had to give back, show back, and step into service. And that's when I got into to finally stepped into coaching and um, being certified and just and really stepping in and then really stepping in now to more to grief coaching, which is something that really I know that I need to be prayed up about. I'm finding out more and more that um, if you're going to be of service to others, you have to be well. Your temple has to be well. I have to be prayed up. I have to be in alignment, and centered before I can help anybody else. So I don't know if that answers your question about my testimony. I've had some interesting roller coaster rides along the way, but I know that God has always been pursuing me, and I wrote a post not too long ago. I said something about being awkward until God like lets you know how significant that is. That little strangeness in us, that little different, something that you might find in yourselves that's different, that's awkward, that's strange, that people might go, really? That's not what everyone else is doing, but that's okay. There's something in you. God's letting you know that you're different, you're set apart, and we need to tap into that. We need to tap into that difference. That we're not trying to show out by being different. We're just trying to fall into what God has as our purpose and our assignments. So run with your difference. I tell people.
I love what you've said already, because in that I think we have a lot of talking points. And the first thing I just want to let everybody know who's here is no experience is ever wasted. So you might
Amen.
look through your life journey and see there's so many valleys and downs and all that, but no experience is ever wasted. God gives us beauty for ashes. And I'm sure if you look back on your journey as a believer, there is that one pivotal moment for you. Like you've said, yours was 12 years ago when you were dismissed from the force and everything just seemed to go haywire. And that started you on your journey back to God. I think for many people that's what the story is, because I have a similar story to yours.
Mm,
Mine is maybe a little bit different. Mine was probably happened like 2 years ago or something. But at the end of the day, the most important thing to remember is God pursues us.
yes.
He has never left us. You might feel like you're all alone, but you'll realize that God loves us so much so that he would not want to see us just go down the drain like that. And that's very reassuring. Let me just take a moment to acknowledge Christine, to acknowledge Adam, and to acknowledge Diana, who are all here with us. So thank you for joining us, everyone. And if you can also let your friends know that we're talking live, and they can kind of jump in and join in, right? Um, the other thing I really love about your testimony, first of all, this is why we talk about testimonies, because the Bible tells us they overcame by the blood of the lamb and by the word of your testimony. So your testimony is very important. You don't know whom you're going to impact. You don't know whom you're going to influence. The word is influence, whom you're going to influence just by your testimony, right? And then I think the other thing I really picked up is, the whole idea of using your experience in service to others. And this
Yes.
is the beauty of stories, and this is the beauty of experience. This is the beauty of testimonies, because by so doing, in addition to influencing other people, you're doing it in service, and you're coming from a place. I've had it said many times that God will use you to help deliver people who are going through what you once went through,
Yes.
and that's very important. So I just like to, hi Rashad, thank you for joining. So God would want us to, gosh, I've lost my train of thought. But anyway, the whole point is this, that don't take your experience for granted.
Yes.
You don't know where your experience and your story is going to be impactful or is going to influence someone. And that's very important, especially in the days that we're living in, because so many people are lost, but they're going through something that you went through. So don't discount your experience. It's very important to know that.
Absolutely.
Which now brings me on to, let's talk about a bit more about what you do in the coaching world. And you've talked about journaling and how journaling really brought you whatever when you started journaling, it ended up being a love letter to God. And I just really want you to unpack the whole journaling practice. Just by way of conversation, I used to journal many, many years ago. It used to be something I'd wake up at 4. And I was very deliberate about it. Back then, it was my self care, my little self care ritual. I'd wake up at 4 in
Sure.
the morning and I had filled up books and books, and I just journal because it was so one. It just felt like a whole release. And
Yes.
this is the thing now, coming from that prior life before I became born again and before I became a Christian,
Right.
journaling was had a different connotation.
Mm.
Now, can you address journaling from a Christian point of view, and why it's actually a very important practice for Christians to embrace journaling?
Absolutely. You're
Yeah.
you're 100% right. And like you, in days past in school, when I started journaling a long time ago, it was because it was a lesson or part of a program or project that we were doing in school. And I actually enjoyed it. And I noticed that some of the other guys enjoyed it as well, because at the time we didn't have diaries. I know that my sisters had diaries, and I think my daughters had diaries. I never looked at any of them, just a disclaimer here. Um, but I know that how important it is for us sometimes to release what it is that we feel might be uh, bothering us, something that an idea, something that would benefit us and serve us later. Um, so as a Christian, my journaling experience has been to pour out the toxicity that was in me. I needed to release it, and the only way to do it for me was to write it down. Um, and it got to the point where I was thinking faster than I could write. So I started to use my phone and make recordings, and then go back and journal them later on and really break them down. And that worked for me a lot, because first of all, my handwriting isn't like my teacher's was, and it's a little tough to write as fast as sometimes we think. I don't know if anybody else here has that problem, but um, for me, the journaling has been, like you said, self care. It was a release for me, especially when I used the days when I got a letter from the police department that said that you were dismissed from the police department, that your services are no longer needed, and blah blah blah, and all this. And I was like, what just happened to me? So I sat on the couch for about 3 days. I took a yellow pad, I think it's over there, and I just wrote. I didn't move. I went to the bathroom. I don't think I ate. I was People were calling me. My phone was going off the hook. I didn't answer it, and I just sat there. My wife let me sit, and I was lamenting on paper, and it started. I'd been journaling before that, but the shift happened, I think, then, for a lot of reasons. It was the shame and the guilt and oh man, the embarrassment, and what am I going to do, and what's going to happen with my life, my family, my home? Are we going to be able to afford this home, and am I going to still be in this marriage, and all those other things? But I have a very loving and supportive wife and family who've been rallying around me since. Um, and I knew then that that shift and what I was putting down was they were downloads from God. It felt like they were just downloads and downloads, and it just got heavier. I mean, boxes of tissues later, and just kind of going off the rails with just some of the thinking that I was that was coming through my writing. I was like, did that make sense? And then at the end of the day, it really all did. It all tied together. Um, and it seemed like there was a story being told as I was going through. The purging was, Dan, I love you enough that I'm going to take everything away from you that you think you need to depend on, and I'm going to start over with you because I love you. And I had to be open to that. And the only way I could respond was, okay, I'm just going to write this awkwardness thing out. I mean, I still had to go to work and I still had to be dad and be the husband and be the uncle and the, everything else. But I knew that I had to continue doing that. I had to purge myself, and I'm still doing it. I still do it. Um, but I realized that now looking back, especially, it was kind of confirmed in my coaching courses that I was taking, that a few of the components that we were working on that I was learning with my coach, I had actually already touched on in my journals in depth that applied to me. Not in a general sense, but in a specific, in a personal sense. But I knew that that confirmed to me that God was letting me know back then, years ago, that I was onto something, and that I was going to come full circle with it when I was in my certification classes, and um, and that's when things started to really make sense and be confirmed to me that, Dan, you know what you thought was weird, grabbing the back of mail or any piece of paper I can get my hands on if I had a thought, all that stuff kind of meant something, and I'm telling that to this audience that if you're writing anything down, if you have a thought, if you have a poem, a song, some incredible idea, a recipe, it doesn't even matter. Write it down. Twofold. It's for you to reread and for it to go back into your long term. But I think also it's tangible. Someone else can see this, read this, and hear of this and use it. This is not for me. All these things that I've been coming across and gathering up, and a lot of that my writing led to some of the content that I'm putting out now, and that uh, it's not for me. It's for me to release and to share with others, and I hope people find themselves in my story. If not, that they can relate to it. But journaling, I mean, it does a bunch of things. It has some physiological healing powers too. I mean, I know I'm not a doctor, but there are things that we can do when we release toxic thoughts and toxic stressors. Our levels go down, our stress levels go down. Cortisol levels go down, and that's what brings stress and disease to us, into our bodies. And we know that we can regulate that through journaling and through having conversations and meditating and praying as well. Journaling also does things like brings this wandering mind to attention. Sometimes I get so all over the place with everything that sometimes the only thing that's going to dial me in is if I grab my book and I just start. And then it kind of calms me down and it leads me somewhere. And usually by the end of the page or two or however long it is, it makes the point. Sometimes I make the point sooner, and then sometimes God has me just writing and writing and writing. So I think with journaling, the overarching reason why journaling is so important to me and should be to all of us is that it's legacy. Journaling is something that is
Mm.
tangible. Journaling is a pad or a book or whatever your recording device is, and it's something that outlives us. It's something that's going to someone else that we may not meet might read it, and they're going to meet you in your writing. And
I
that's what.
I love that you have just said that journaling is legacy. That for me, if nothing else, I think that will just be like you should make it into a quote. I'm just saying. So if you're watching us live, just let us know if you journal and what your experience with journaling has been. One of the things I also love that you said, it's journaling is multi-purpose. It can be a moment of meditation, it can be a moment of prayer, it can be a moment of release, it can be a moment of um of 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 thinking, it can be a way of just speaking, allowing God to speak to you. It's a way of communicating with God. So journaling is all that and more. So if you're here and you are a journaler, just let us know what your experience is. And then still on journaling, are there any tips that you can give people on how to journal? Because Some people will tell you, I don't have the time to journal, like myself.
Okay.
Some people will tell you, I can't sit still enough to journal. Or some people are literally afraid of their own thoughts. So you're scared that if I actually sit down, yeah, I, I I won't be able to process what I'm thinking or what I'm feeling. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Wow. You're right, and it's it's as simple as grabbing a pen and a paper, but it's as difficult as like you're staring at a blank page. And what I tell people is there's no right or wrong to journaling. So you're not being judged, and you're not being. Um, this is not a test. This is it's an expression of your heart. Um, so for people who haven't or are reluctant to start in somewhere, I would say that they can start by writing about a great day or an experience. I call that experiential journaling. You could write about a day, and you could do it in chronological time. You know how it started, what happened during, and then how you felt afterward. That right there is enough to fill a page. And it doesn't have to be any super length. It could journaling. I could be a word, a sentence, a paragraph, or a chapter. Journaling is wherever it leads you. And sometimes less is more. And I'm finding that I'm learning that now. I'm learning that less is more. Do I have to write 3 or 10 pages to get one sentence out of it? Sometimes I do, but then there are other times where it just comes, and you're like, that's it. That's what I wanted to say, and I can close the book and feel like I've done something. I think starting our day with the intention of obviously with prayer and with meditation, or however you start your day, if you have the time. I've been trying to free write more, which means I set a timer on my phone. This morning I set it for 5 minutes, and I could not believe that I was hearing the alarm go off, because I was excited about today, but I could not believe how fast that went. Normally, the last 5 minutes of work are the longest, right? You're like, oh my God, this clock is not moving. But today, it just like that, it was gone, and so I turned it off and I continued to write and finish my thought. But free writing is good too. Free writing is interesting because it's whatever's coming to mind early in your day, where your thoughts are probably the highest. They're clear. You're coming out of I guess dream state or REM sleep or whatever it is, and so those thoughts that have been running are fresh and uninterrupted, basically. Um, and free writing can go in 30 different directions. It's not a recipe, or it's not a specific time, place, and experience. It could be something else. But that gets us to piece together. If you look back at it, it gets you to piece together some things that may have been coming up in you that you needed to see. It might just show you that. Um, so I mean, the free writing is something that I'm stepping back into. But I encourage everyone, if you have a pen, if you have a pad, a journal, get one. If you don't get one, I love when people have been responding to me about some of their experiences with journaling. When I started to post about it, uh, I've had people contact me and say, I can't, or I used to journal, but I stopped because when I reread it, I was so emotional. I started to get upset, and I closed the book. Another friend of mine had said that so when she was knew that her someone in her family found her diary or journal, and that upset
Mm-hmm.
her because it exposed her to a different emotional state, when she realized that someone else had tapped into her privacy. So we know how important that is. Yes, they are private, and it's yours. It's these are your words, these are your thoughts. But know that when it comes to at the end of the day, when this is all over, when we leave, someone else is going to be behind us, and they might just say, hey, look, this is one of the pads grandpa or grandma left behind, or auntie, and they could look through it and see where you were. I love to date and even time, at the top of the page, just so that we know where we are in history, right? Um,
Mm.
so it's important that we do that. But someone is going to get to know you. You're going to be speaking to them like if you were in front of them. Because when they read your words, they're real words. They were coming from your heart. You put them on paper, and someone else came behind you and read them after you're gone, and they'll get to know you through that. And I think that that to me is everything. It's important.
Okay, all right. So let me just quickly circle to the comments here. And the whole idea of journaling as legacy is really, really a hit here. And Jill says, I love going back to my journal and seeing what God has done and how he answers prayers, including giving me Palm as a friend as an answer to a prayer in 2013. And I think especially for Christians, this is an important part. When you get into the habit of journaling your prayers and tracking and record, because a journal is essentially also a record, right?
Yes.
And allows us to track, so you're able to see progress as you have gone along. And so sometimes you could be here feeling really sorry for yourself, but then when you look back, you're like, oh my goodness, of course, yes, God answered prayers. And thank you, Jill, for bringing that up. Let me say hello to Jean-Luc. Let me say hello to Cynthia, who is loving the conversation. And let me also just note that Dalila says she loves to journal every day. So, okay, I suppose this is also note to self to resume my journaling habit that I had once upon a time.
Let me
So
see.
that's good. Okay. So now we're going to talk about the next part of your I want to not your journey, but your experience as a coach. And let's talk about grief.
Grief.
Let's talk about grief. And then, so grief as an emotion, grief as everything that's going on. And then let's just tie everything together. You know, grief, journaling, faith. Let's put it all together.
Sure. Sure. I started a year ago with my coaching program certification. And afterward, I wound up sitting with people and realizing that as I was coaching them, um, they were looking for something more, but at the same time, they hadn't dealt with some of the unresolved issues of their past. In order to move forward, sometimes you got to go back. But see, coaching, as far as coaching in, as opposed to counseling, when it comes to grief coaches work with their clients to move them from grief to joy by helping them to take action, where counseling helps them to go back. So I have to clarify that because I am not a counselor. I have a sister who is, spent a lot of time in school, getting her certification and her degree and her master's, and she's a wonderful counselor, and that's her specialty. But as a coach, we're here to take people from present where they are now to where they want to go to. Um, but grief. When I speak of grief, and when I think of grief, obviously there's a more, we think of morbid and death and the loss of a life, but it's more than that. I'm finding out that grief is the loss of relationships, is the loss of pets, uh, uh, finances, income, even community, people living in one place and leaving and moving to another, and maybe not fitting in, or realizing maybe I should have stayed where I was, or this is going to take work now, and I'm dealing with that, I'm processing that. But there's 5 stages of grief: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. And what I like to do is, when I'm working with my clients, find out where they are in that, and then work either forward. If they're still in denial, work forward from there, or wherever they're at, dial back, uncover some things, and go through some of these areas in depth, and then move them forward, so that they can just reconnect to themselves, reconnect to their lives, the lives that they should be living and that they wanted to live, um, absent of their loved one, or whatever they were holding on to, whatever they were grieving. um, so i i'm I'm new to this space, but I have
Mhm.
I've been grieving for some time. I can't even tell you how many funerals I've been to over. in my life, but grieving your parents, because I don't know what it's like to grieve a child, and I know that that's super heavy, and I pray for those people. But I believe that, grieving our parents, we spend the rest of our living lives grieving them, and we don't realize it. And we have to stop sometimes and step into that, because we might find ourselves stuck. We might find ourselves in a cycle instead of a season, because we have some unresolved issues that we never really dealt with, and we have to give it to God, but we can also get support with it. There's support out there, um, in this space, and I believe it's important for all of us to to tap into our grief, from time to time. We are human, and we're going to be emotional, and we're going to have all those swings with us. But if we find ourselves, being supported and stepping into a program, or some frameworks that you can do to help you move past that, that's really the direction you want to go. No one wants to be stuck in anything, for any length of time, especially. I know what that's like, to be stuck, and to spin my wheels and think I was making progress and then pulling back. I do know this, and because I've experienced both. I've gotten the counseling and I've gotten the coaching. When I when I wasn't brutally honest, I only got so far. It was when I lifted that veil of honesty and vulnerability, and I knew that I needed to just go all in. When I dove into that, that's when things just started to change for me. And the more I stepped in, the more I realized, damn, why didn't you do this back then? Why didn't you do this a long time ago? Like, what was holding you back? You know, what was holding you back? Some limited beliefs, some thoughts of mine, that a lot of it was what other people were thinking of me, let alone what I was thinking of myself. And I had to maintain this image and be this person to these people and to them and to my family and I was like, this gets exhausting. I'm going to find who I'm going to dig deeper, find out who I am, and I can live my life knowing that I'm living my public and private life. They're lining up. They're lining up. They're not perfect, but they're lining up. And I realized that when they were out of line, that's when I was out of line. And I realized that the that was where I needed to get to. We're not perfect. I'm not perfect, but I believe that coaching helps us become centered, more aligned, and we get to co-create with God. We get to co-create with God. Every idea, everything that anyone wants to do, whether it's business, whether it's they want to go into any one of the arts, or they want to set up something for themselves. Um, there there are steps we can take, but it's important that we know that we have we have God on our side. We get to co-create with the Creator. We're creation. We are equipped to create. And when we bring Him in, when I allowed God in to co-create, to do this, to set up, I know nothing about, or knew nothing about, Instagram, Facebook, all those other things, these platforms. I'm low tech, and I admit that. My family knows that, but I'm starting to figure it out and work it. I'm working with a coach now who's really pushing me along and getting me to a higher level, in that, so that all of my you know my pages and my website and everything lines up, and is presentable. But I'm I'm not letting that limitation stop me from doing what God has assigned me to do. I feel everyone has a purpose, right, and this calling. We have to answer the calls that God puts on us, and that's when we start to line up with our purpose. Sometimes we're stretching for in one direction. We God's like, U-turn, or come back, or just step one step to your right or one step to your left, and that's the trajectory I need you to get on. And it took me a long time to figure that out. It was always there. It was always rumbling, but it just, something happened, and I just stepped in. I just stepped in. And for me, I feel like the veil is lifted. there's no turning back. There's no reason to turn back, but I can't wait to move forward. I can't wait to be in service and work with others. I can't wait to see people get free from some of the things that they've been stuck in. Um, that God, through me and through us, we get to co-create that experience. Um, and that's what coaching is for me.
All right. Okay. So let me pick a couple of things. One, Christian says, I never knew why people journal. I now get it. I've never done this, and I'm looking forward to start. Pam said, congratulations on doing it scared. So I just want, first of all, to remind everyone that, and something that I've really been sitting with for the last couple of days is God has plans for everybody.
Amen.
Everybody. So Dan has his plan. God has a plan for you. God has a plan for me. God has a plan for each and every single person. Um, by the time he was creating us, by the time he was creating you, he knew exactly what you were going to do. And the only way you can discover your purpose in is by being with God, by allowing God to just lead you and show you the way. And you have to learn how to listen to his voice, and you have to learn to understand, and something that you had said earlier, that with all your quirks, with all your differences, with everything that is so unique about you, it's by design. God made
Yep.
that on purpose because he knew the total sum of Dan, whether his eyebrow is up like this or whether he speaks how, all of that comes together to fulfill his purpose for you. And so let us be an encouragement to somebody who looks at themselves and feels like, oh, I don't know this, I don't know that, to just realize that God has a plan for you. And that is something that you can have confidence in your identity in God, that he created you with a purpose. That's number one. Um,
Amen.
Number two, I think it's a question that we have to ask. Do Christians need coaches, actually? Do they?
Well, I believe that they do. In fact, the group that I was went through with, they were I'm going to say more than 50%, 60% out of maybe 35 people, at least 20 of us, were believers. And these people, they were from all over the world, actually, and they were wonderful people. Um, Obviously, Joel Brown, my instructor, and Nash Mackey, they're from Australia, but Joel lives in Bali, and Nash is still in Australia, and they're believers, and they have their own testimonies, very interesting. Um, Men who want to be in service. There was something awkward about them that God was showing them, that their difference uh, was not wasted. Um, but I believe that Christians, we have to get rid of the stigma that if I go to church, God's with me all the time. I'm protected. I'm good. And a lot of times Christians need the most counseling. If not the most, but I mean, needed just as much as a non-Christian. And there's nothing wrong with raising your hand and saying, "Hey, look, I don't feel well," or "I'm still stuck." And how do I get from here to there? And what are some things that I can do? You know, in coaching, people want speed, right? So people want to go further, faster, and they can get that with certain frameworks. But when it comes to grief coaching, it takes a little longer, because grieving, some people are grieving after years,
Mhm.
but there are still things we can do in grief coaching to get them to move, out of grief into joy, on with their lives. But I think the um, this is not some, you work it, you go as far as you work it. Like I said about being brutally honest. When you do the work, when you do the homework, sometimes you were stuck with, like, wow, I gotta write this paper, I gotta write a forgiveness letter today, or I gotta write a vision plan. What does that look like? I've never done that. And these are things that reveal where we are, but where we want to go and where we want to be. So I think that as Christians or non-Christians, that counseling and coaching is beneficial, can only be beneficial to you if you get with the right person and you get the right program. Um, and and if you become a client, you let your instructor or your coach, you let them know what direction you want to go in, and they're to work a program for you. You know, um, it's not like, hey, this is a cookie cutter thing, and in 8 weeks you're going to be a millionaire, and your life is going to be great, and you're going to be happy. Happiness is not where we're going with this. It's really just living your best life, and living it, as a Christian with God, and God being part of it, because God will honor and bless the things that you step into when you give Him the glory, when you give Him your talents, your gifts. He knows exactly what you have in you, and He wants to bring that out in you. You have to set aside a time to co-create with Him. Um, and it's a beautiful thing. It really is. I mean, I don't want to get mushy, but it's for me, I'm so excited. I don't want to get too high and crazy about it, but I am super stoked to step into this. I'm just starting this out. I'm finding out about how the algorithms of social media work and things like that. But I'm just trying to go organically and be in service to others. And I believe that Christians need coaching, and because there's something you already have. What you If you have a relationship with the Creator, you're 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 already there. You're already there. He's now going to bring this out. A coach can only bring out and enhance those things, and those qualities and gifts and talents that in whatever direction you want to pursue. It can only benefit you. So I think Christians should, if they feel they need to, step into some sort of coaching.
All right. So everybody who's on, if you have any questions or you have any comments, feel free to use the chat box over here where
Yeah.
okay, let's say we've got a couple of minutes more to go, but I just really wanted to pick up on a couple of things. One is process, and two is not starting over, but starting something new. Like you've said, you're new into the social media space, and you're trying to grow organically, and you're trying to be of service to people. But what words do you have to share with people who are thinking about, okay, I have this dream, I have this vision, I don't know where to start. It seems like a monster. It just seems like a big monkey, like StreamYard seemed at some point, until we sat down and we're like, okay, let's figure this out. And we did it, and here we are. But what words do you have for people who feel either it's too late, or I can't do it, or this is too hard, you know?
Well, I mean, again, I 3 years ago, I think was really there was a moment, or probably a little less than 3 years ago, was the moment that I knew that there was no turning back. That that quirkiness was I was onto something, and I'm going to figure this out. I was able to meet people on social media who I engaged with, who engaged back, and were encouraging. Once we got into some conversations, they were really inspiring, and they were there to kind of confirm what I may have been dealing with or feeling all along, and that just gave me the inspiration to keep moving. Um, if you have an idea, if you have a thought, write it down, right? Make it tangible. Make it put post-its up. One of the things that we worked on were vision plans, and they're really powerful. Um, we worked a 3 year, 5 year, 10 year, I think even a 20 year. I mean, listen, I'm 60, but my 20 year for 80, I'm still doing it. I'm still giving back, right? Because I'm believing I'm going to be around, God willing. But I feel like when we write these vision plans out, don't be afraid to put something that other people have put limitations on your thoughts about. Don't let people say, well, a business. What do you mean? You want to be a philanthropist? What do you mean? Because when we get rid of the lack and scarcity mindset, everything opens up. And so businesses are not strange, to us. being giving back or setting up a foundation. I worked with a young man, and he had told me, Dan, for 6 years I've kind of shelved this nonprofit idea that I had. And after working with you, it's up and running. We work, and I'm not taking any credit, but it was a couple of things that he needed to shift, and this organization, it's called Always Giving Season, AGS. It's a nonprofit organization. His name is Angel Diaz, and he's a great man. He's been through a lot. He's and I know he wouldn't mind me sharing this. He lost a 14-year-old son, so he's been dealing with that. But his response to everything that happened to him, he made it happen for him, and he needed to give back. And one of the things that he wanted to give back was set up a foundation, an organization where he can give back and take kids from the inner city and take them on fishing trips, which I think they're going really soon. Taking the kids to soccer games and baseball games and things like that that wouldn't otherwise have that opportunity. And I believe that, I don't know if he knew that he had an idea, but there were a couple of things that needed to just shift in alignment for him to step into it. And there was an accountability, obviously, with myself and him, and we would go over it and we would walk through it and we would talk it through, because when you can write it down and talk about it and see it, it's already there. I believe it's already there. You know, people say, well, how do you manifest these things? You have to see them. Every invention that's ever created is obviously out of necessity, but someone saw it, created it, and we're using it now, and then they're enhancing everything that has been created already. So there's no limit to what any of us can do. There's no limit to anybody. I mean, to anyone's abilities. If you have a gift, if God has given you a gift, it doesn't have to be big. It could be small. Whatever it is, I think you need to tap into it. Don't be afraid of it. Let it become your superpower. And even if it's a hobby, we all want to get paid for something, and that comes along with it. Obviously, if it's your profession and or it becomes who you are, and obviously being rewarded for it means you're getting money for it and things like that. That'll come. But I think being in service, looking to serve, looking to give back is the gateway to those things coming back to you. And don't be afraid of any of those quirky ideas or thoughts that you have. Make them tangible, um, and act on them. And I think vision plans are part of that. And you could always work them backwards. You write the vision plan and then you chunk it backwards in manageable steps, and that's how it works.
So there you have it, and that reminds me of Habakkuk, where you're told to write the vision and make it plain and have it, where you can see it. And so, if you have these big dreams in your heart that God has placed, and it's like a burning desire in your heart, write it down and take it to God and ask God to give you the grace and give you the ideas. And through and you can also just communicate with God through your journal. I know that used to happen a lot to me when I used to write, and I got some really, really special and spectacular ideas that I guess I also have to revisit, um,
Right.
and also to just give thanks for what has happened, like Jill said. Um, so one thing I think one of the final things that I just want to talk about, and this is circling back to grief, is we know, yes, there's grief as in bereavement, but I just want to circle back on the other types of grief, because I feel this is a part where we tend to brush over quickly, and we don't acknowledge sometimes that transitions can be a grieving process. um Changes in states. So for example, if you're a single person to a married person, that whole shift can also be cause for grief. When you lose your job, that can be cause for grief. When you're massively disappointed, like something you'd really worked for doesn't come to pass, that can be cause for disappointment. So how would you what tips do you have for people to just really not step into the process, but how would you help people get through, flow through? You get what I mean? Because many people will kind of discount it and trudge along like nothing happened yet, and get to a point and just crash all of a sudden, just because you didn't acknowledge that you are grieving something different.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. I feel like what we're after is peace of mind. You know, we're after not necessarily our old life again, but a new one without what we're grieving. And I feel that I'm sorry. The the process for grieving out even other than a loved one passing, uh, a job or a pet. You know, sometimes our pets become family members. We have moving from one place, one community to another, or like you said, that's interesting. Marriage, from going single to married. Um, we really have to honor who we were or who they were, and by doing that, you can you can you can write them a letter. You can write a letter. Uh, I think one of the processes, you can write a letter to the person of who what they meant to you and who they were to you. And at the end of that letter, you can burn it, you can rip it up, you can tear it away, because that now is no longer your life. You're no longer in that. You're no longer that person, or that it's no longer in your life anymore. And one of the ways to help move past that is to kind of find, I'm not forgetting you, I'm not forgetting it, but I'm putting it to rest, because my peace of mind is more important than me moving forward. I can't stay stuck. I'm no good to myself, anyone else around me, at work, my children, my family. I'm no good to anyone if I'm continuing to grieve. Grieving is a natural process. We all have a date, but those who went before us had their date. And I think we've moved through our lives a lot by not acknowledging that enough. Um, and I think when we do, it makes it easier, or um, the acceptance becomes easier as we move forward when we experience it all over again. Um, I lost both my parents they were 65 years old each, I think 2 years apart. And my brother's going to be 70 in a couple days. And he's like 5 years, I think, older than they were when they were alive. And you know, I I don't know what it would be like if he wasn't here. You know, um, so I know people live longer, and I know people are taking care of themselves better and things. But life happens. Sometimes accidents. Sometimes tragic things. Sometimes just our bodies give up earlier than others. But by stepping into this grief coaching, it made me go back and start to uncover and dig a little bit deeper about, hey, Dan, are you really okay with mom and and dad? And, but I do know one thing. I can walk by their photo in my house, and a smile comes to my face. I can hear their voice if I think about it. They're not far away, you know, and so we have to be empowered by our grief as well. Um, I feel like we really need to use grief, um, as a stepping stone, never to forget, but to use it as something that we can, as human beings, we can process through, and we can use, as like our cape. We're not hiding from anything. It's just my power comes back when I've grieved. My if Because if not, I'm going to stay stuck, and I'm not going to do the things that I should be doing in this life. I think that each one of those who've passed on in our lives, in everyone's life, would want us to continue on, would want us to be the best version of ourselves, and to live our best life. um and just to pull it all together, if I didn't have a relationship with the Lord, I don't know what my grieving would look like, to be honest with you. Even in my roller coaster life, I don't know what it would be like, because we've had people praying for us, and people standing in the gap for us, and being supportive, and community was there, and that was so important. Um, and I think that's what we need to keep in mind when we are dealing with our own grief, or the grief of others. And I mean, I hope that ties it in, but I feel like your relationship with the Lord is everything, and without Him, this means, not that this means nothing. This means a lot to me, but it would all it wouldn't mean what it should, and that's because of the relationship with the Lord. If you don't have one, seek Him, and He will meet you right where you're at. He's been pursuing you all along. We run, we try to hide, we can't. His light outshines our darkness. I find that I've ran in circles, and now I'm running as fast as I can back to Him.
And that is, I think, the most powerful way we can end our conversation. Just reminding everyone that your relationship with God at the end of the day is what sets you apart, is what keeps you on your path, is what reveals who you are to yourself. Without God, we are nothing, really. At the end of the day, that's what it is. So now, Dan, thank you very much. Thank you so much. That was a conversation that just took its own life. But I think everybody here can agree with me that you've kind of picked up something. So if you would just put in a comment, or if you have any questions before we wind down, if you have any questions or comments, the chat box is here. I just want to read a few things. Christine says, opening up your mind and embracing your gifts and abilities, and you will be amazed of your possibilities. Journal, vision plans, and coaching can guide you to achieve potential that God plans for you. And I agree. And at the end of
Yes.
the day, God has placed different bits of Himself in everyone. And so if you're gifted as a coach and you're able to guide people into whom God has called them to be, that's it. If you use journaling as a way to communicate with God so that He can just download more of Himself into you, then
Amen.
then that's what you need to do. um I'm so grateful that we're able to do this. This has been, I think, one of the, I mean, all the conversations are normally very empowering and eye-opening, but I think this one has just gone up. it,
Well,
it
thank
keeps
you.
building and building, and yeah, that was really special. So thank you, and thank
Thank
you to
you.
everybody who's tuned in. I'm just waiting for people to give me your final comments and feedback, and then we wrap this thing up.
It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bree,
So
for having me. I appreciate you, and Pam. I really I appreciate you guys, and I appreciate you having me. This is my first one. I don't know where this is in terms of interviews, but I feel like you leading in a gentle way is helping me to express express myself in a
and,
deeper
and,
way.
and that's what it's all about. Starting small, starting scared. God rewards obedience.
Amen.
And that's where we're going to go. You just step out by faith and believe God is going to show you the rest of the staircase. Okay, Zuleika says, I have been journaling and it's really, really helpful. By the way, you did have a journaling challenge once upon a time. Are you going to bring it back again?
Yes, um, absolutely. I
Mm-hmm.
will. I definitely will. I'm going to use that particular. It's called Journal to Heal. It's a
Yeah.
Facebook group, but I'm going to tweak the name a little bit. But I'm going to still. It's going to be that group. So if you're already in that group, that's great. If not, it's called Journal to Heal. Um, my name is Daniel King, and my daughter Samantha King is also the administrator. So if you see one of us in there, you can invite and then we'll look over it and bring you guys in. My first journal challenge, or the only journal challenge, was we were coming out of COVID, and we just wanted to make sense of that. I felt that a lot of people wanted to and were kind of anxious to express that, and so I just went with it, and we went over 4 weeks, and each week we went over a large question, or a statement, and then we broke it down into smaller questions that they could chunk down during the week and write about. And we started about what what is COVID, and then we ended up with what did you make of it? What did you create as a result of everything that you went through? What did you create? What did you co-create with God about during this time? Um, it's pretty interesting, and we had maybe about 53, 55 people participate, and some of those people were picking back up their journals. Others hadn't journaled, but it was good. It moved itself along, and I appreciate you, Sam. Thank you for helping me with that and making sure that the website was right. So I that was, to me, that was like a testing ground, but I definitely will, and I will let everyone know when that is. I'll put it again. I'll put it back on my social media platforms and things like that, and let everybody know when that next one is coming up. So
Okay, so everybody, we are all joining the journaling challenge. And if you want to follow Dan, he's at Dan King Coach. Yeah.
yeah,
On Instagram. His link is somewhere there. I'll try and get it to everyone. But yeah. So thank you for sticking it with us. I hope this conversation has been a blessing to all of you.
amen.
You can always catch the replay on YouTube. We're getting fancy like that. And yeah, God bless you all. Have a good evening for those of us who are here. Have a good afternoon or good morning for those of you who are over there. And we'll
Yes.
see you next time. All right.
Thank you. Bye bye.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Mhm.